Hey guys, J.C. Smith here. Today I need to do a little bit of work to this box truck. This is a 2009 or 2010 Chevy Express. I bought this thing for the engine. I needed it for another truck. So I really didn't care about its overall condition. I just cared about the motor and transmission. I wanted to make sure they run and drove good, no issues, and it did. But now things have kind of changed, and I may have my property sold in Pennsylvania. I mean, we have a signed contract, we have a check in escrow, we're waiting on the title company to do the title work. It's supposed to be closing here pretty quick, and if it does, I have to get up to my property in Pennsylvania and get all my belongings out, things that don't go with the cabin. So rather than rent a U-Haul or something like that, I had this truck already, so it's got a few issues that I need to look at. It's got a tire, actually the two front tires keep losing air. After about 2 weeks it's noticeably down, and it leaks coolant about the center of the motor in the front, and I've only got one turn signal in the back right rear. The front turn signals don't work, and the left rear turn signal doesn't work, and there was something else. The check engine light's on and the airbag light's on. There's a couple, those things, but airbag I don't so much care about as much, but we're gonna get a look at it. We're gonna see what all it needs and get it fixed. Alright, so I'm not gonna bore you with the tires. I soaked the bead all the way around. I took tires off, soaked the bead, soaked around the valve stem, and the valve stem was leaking, so I cut it out. I demounted the tire, broke the bead loose right here, pulled the valve stem out, put a new valve stem in. Those are the heavy duty ones with the metal center core, because that tire, I put 80 pounds of air in it. The other side was doing the same thing, so I just broke the bead, changed it. That's the only place I had leaks, so we'll move on from there. Okay, so I've been keeping up with the coolant on this thing, but it does leak down the center, and you can see, I mean, we got intercooler pipes, the air cleaner, the other intercooler pipe, throttle bodies up here. This is tight. This is going to be really difficult to get to. The unfortunate thing is I can't see anything well enough from underneath. I can just tell it's up above the center, oh geez, what am I trying to tell you? The fan clutch hub. The water pump on this Duramax is not in the center, it's off to the side. So they have a bearing hub that the fan clutch rides on. So I have to get back to somewhere around there because it looks like it's coming above there. So let's get into it.
Well, just break out a bottle, hoss. I'll tell you about the drifting cowboy band.
Alright guys, so I found the culprit. This is a hose that goes from the water pump apparently to another pipe that comes up on the top of the engine. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that right there. It's got a hole in it right there. So this sits right above the fan clutch, going horizontal like this. So this is the next day. I was an absolute greasy, filthy mess. So I didn't get a whole lot. I didn't get any of it recorded really, because I couldn't touch the camera. It was so dirty. But that was the culprit of my coolant leak. So I've got it all back together. So now I need to get working on the turn signal problem. Alright, so as you see, the hazards work in here, and I can turn them off, and I can get independent turn signals. Okay, so that leads me to believe that the multifunction switch, which is the turn signal and the four-way flashers, has the ability to create and make the turn signals work. Because the way I understand this, I haven't looked at a wiring schematic, but I'm assuming that it comes out of here, the signal goes into body control module, that splits off into two right circuits, two left circuits, and that's what feeds them. That's why I'm thinking we have one that works on the passenger rear and nothing else. So my next step is going to be look at a wiring schematic, see if I can find. So I'm going to look at a schematic, see what it looks like, see what it tells me, and see if I can find anything out. Okay, so the wiring schematic that I found shows that there's a fuse box here. This is underneath the driver's seat, and there's a fuse box here. I think there was like 6 or 7 fuses for the body control module. So I found the locations for them, they didn't mark individually turn signals, but it just said body control computer, or body control module. So I took both of these off, both covers, and I went through and I found 3 blown fuses. It's hard to see this one. You see, I dropped one, I don't know where it's at, but they're so filthy. This one's real tough to see. It looks like it's good, but it's broke. It's burnt out really close. So I don't know if you can see it right there to this spade where the hump comes over and back down. That's where that one's burnt out. They're so little. And this one's just completely burnt out. And there was one more. So I replaced those. I just replaced those. So let's see what we got now. I'm struggling. I just replaced them, and they were out here underneath the hood. And I'll tell you how I test fuses. I take my test light and I come to the top of the fuse, and that little tab right there, I just go to each side, because that is basically this terminal and this terminal. So it lets you know if you do it this way, you don't have to pull them all out. You can just sit there and go from one to the next and move on from there. That's how I test fuses. Okay, so now I found those. There was 3 of them. That's a good sign. I mean, it's a good sign as the effect of why it's not working, but we got to find out the cause. So let's see what happens now. Put the 4-ways back on. There we go. Hey. That's 2 out of 3. Let's see what we got back here now. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so that was pretty easy. I think I took more time trying to find a wiring schematic than I did actually testing the fuses, which I guess I could have tested fuses to begin with, but you know, it's a process. It is what it is. So now we'll get all this put back together. Yep, well, that's working. Let's see, I've already checked the rest of the lights. We know they're good. So I'm not going to mess with that. And next we need to look at the check engine light and the airbag light, and we'll see what's going on here. Again, this was bought as a parts truck, so I didn't really care so much about a lot of the things that were wrong with it, because it just didn't matter. My wife has cleaned it up the other day, or yesterday, while I was doing the coolant leak issue, and quite honestly, with the exception of some wear items, I mean, it's really pretty decent. I can't complain. So this is what we're going to take to go get my stuff. But alright, let's get the scanner out. Okay, as you can see, we've got a check engine light, we've got an ABS light, airbag light, oil pressure is good, voltage is good, temperature of course is cold. So I just went ahead and ran all the codes. Alright, we're just going to run the code scan. Can't see that. Let's go inside. Might be a little easier. This thing's cordless, so get in here where it's a little bit darker, not quite as bright. Let's set it up here. Okay, so a lot of these are going to be because when I had the thing apart fixing the coolant leak, some of these are going to be because of the fact that my wife turned the key on and bumped the key when she was cleaning the interior. Don't get excited. I was in the shop. I didn't have my hands in there. She doesn't do that. She's very careful. She knew I wasn't under the hood at the time, and she wanted to clean around the ignition key. Yeah, so this one I had the crank sensor was unplugged while I was taking the fan hub off. This one is control, the lost communication auxiliary heater control module. That one I know what's going on there, because when I was checking for the turn signals fuses, the fuse that runs this is in that module, in the fuse box, is so corroded on that fuse that when I barely touched it with my test light, the fuse fell off. So that won't be getting fixed. Like I said, it's a parts vehicle. This isn't something that we're going to be using. I mean, we're going to use it now, but I just need to make sure it'll make it there and back, and I don't think we need that heat module in this time of year. I could be wrong, but glow plugs, we're pretty good there. theft deterrent, learn mode. It had a dead battery, and we don't have a transponder for it, we just have a key. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase the codes, and we'll see which ones reset, because a lot of these, like I said, are because of the fact the key was on and it was cranked. So let me reset them, we'll see what we got. Alright, so I cleared all the codes. Now we'll do a code scan again. It's working. Alright, we got 2 engine codes, 1 airbag code, and 2 glow plug codes. So there's the auxiliary heater I was telling you about. I know what that is. I'm not worried about it. Glow plug control module. Performance, I'm not worried about that. Front end wheel speed sensor, not worried about that. A lot of these are the same thing, just in different categories here. So that's it. That's all there is. I'm okay with that. So now, since I'm okay with this and it's been running, the airbag light stays on. What's the airbag code? I forget that one. Airbag. Front end sensor. I kept saying speed sensor, but that's front end sensor symptom. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that, because I was up underneath this thing looking for that coolant leak, and I know exactly what's wrong with this thing. The wire where it goes into the plug is corroded, and it looks like it's probably almost, if not in half, it's probably no connection, very bad connection. I'm not going to worry about that. It doesn't matter. The glow plugs, I don't care about. Auxiliary heater, I don't think that's going to be a problem. So we'll move on from there. Okay, that's pretty good. Let me get this off here, and I'm going to check all the fluids again. It's not due for service. I don't know if you can read that. No, won't read. Anyways, it's not due for service for another 1,500 miles. I've been underneath it. I checked all the air in the tires. I checked the brakes. We checked the steering components. Checked the suspension. I checked all the ball joints, and the air conditioning works. Can you believe it? This old jalopy, this old beat up truck has working air conditioning. That's pretty cool. Well, unexpected too, that's for sure. I didn't expect it to work, but okay, so we're gonna do a little test drive now. Make sure everything's okay and I don't hear any weird noises or anything. I've run this a couple times, and I've topped off the fluid for the antifreeze for the coolant, and oh, I changed out the blower motor. The old blower motor was making noise, and I think that's about it. So let's take it for a ride. All right, guys, it runs good. Of course, it ran good before. I bought this back before winter, or close to winter. And I've used it a little bit, but I really haven't put a lot of miles on it. I've had it to Lowe's a few times and that kind of stuff, but I haven't done much with it. But, you know, my wife's got it pretty well cleaned up, looks pretty good. I don't know, it didn't take her very long. It really turned out pretty good for, you know, an old work truck, that's for sure. But, anyways, so I just want to put some miles on it and make sure that I think it's okay for about a 5-hour trip, 5.5 hours worth of driving, you know. So we're gonna head down the highway here a little bit and make sure she'll do 70 okay and no issues. I did notice when I was looking it over that the differential, the pinion had, when I put it in neutral, put the truck in neutral, chalked the wheels, I was checking U-joints and carrier bearing and all that, and I did notice that the pinion has quite a bit of play. Quite a bit of backlash, so that's something we'll want to keep an eye on. We just want to make sure that it's not an issue. The fluid's full, it's not leaking anything. It's just, I believe, the pinion and the ring gear are worn, which, you know, once you get to a certain point, they get real sloppy. It could quite easily, you know, break off and grenade. So we want to be careful. We don't want to be doing any hole shots with her or any burnouts. You know, we want to be easy on the old girl. We just need her to get up there and do what we got to do and get back. But it runs really good. I guess most people know I'm not a Duramax fan, so, but you know, I got to give credit where credit's due. This is a good running little truck. It's got about somewhere around 200,000 miles on it, if I remember right. It was used as an auto parts delivery truck, is what it was. Even has a liftgate on the back, and the liftgate works. It was a little stiff, you know, a little rusty, so we took some time and worked it yesterday. You know, sprayed it down real good, PV blaster and all that kind of stuff, and it seems to be okay. The front tires got a little bit of cupping going on. The front shocks, I don't know if you guys can tell, we hit a bump. It gets kind of bouncy in the front, but it's not to where I'm worried or dangerous. I mean, it's something that if I was going to use it a lot, I would for sure replace them. But again, you know, I'm not going to use this truck a lot, so I'm going to kind of be a little more reserved on my investment and repairs. But I can't complain. I mean, we're doing 55 miles an hour. One thing it doesn't have is cruise control. Air conditioning works great, radio works, heater works, wipers work, all that stuff, the delay, so, but no cruise control. That's the only bummer for me, but that's alright. We're not going to use it that much. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. If you like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and catch you guys on the next one.
Yeah, back then they called him crazy. Nowadays they call him a saint. Now the ones that called him crazy, Lord, still riding